Adam Morrison here. When it comes to top-tier contracting, my go-to choice is McGillivray Environmental. They're not just any contractor, they're the best in Spokane and North Idaho. With years of experience, they handle it all. New construction, meticulous repairs, and asphalt overlays. From start to finish, they ensure your project is completed with the highest quality end results. And here's the scoop for this year. McGillivray Environmental has expanded its services to include asphalt paving. That means top-notch commercial parking lots, residential driveways, and road construction. So, ready to kickstart your project? Reach out to Kip at McGillivray Environmental by calling 208-556-6384 for your free estimate. Don't forget to mention my name, Adam from the Perimeter, and experience the difference that McGillivray Environmental brings to the table. Again, that's 208-556-6384, McGillivray Environmental. My number one choice for all my contracting needs. The Perimeter would like to thank our sponsor, HDG Architecture. HDG is a Spokane-based architectural firm whose aesthetic can be described as an understatement of badassery, an idea that sets the standard for their approach to every client and every project decision. The world is full of poorly designed spaces, and HDG wants to change that. Check out some of their award-winning work at studiohdg.com. Welcome to The Perimeter, Season 3, Episode 13, presented by McGillivray Environmental. Here with Brendan, the producer. It's going to be an interesting one today. I think I'm going to kind of dive into what I think some of the issues are, not just three-point shooting on this club right now. We just came off a loss versus Santa Clara at their place. A chance to really take control of the league to go 3-0. Obviously, Santa Clara now is 3-0. Tough one. We talked about it. They always have great crowds. It's a harder place to play, quote unquote, in the WCC. But I thought our effort and focus was just not there to start the game. It was lackadaisical. And it was kind of, shocking to say, for a team that's kind of, we're 10-5 now. We gotta stack some of these wins together if we want to go to the NCAA tournament and make a deep run that we've done in the last, 2 decades.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was a little bit disappointed in that. Now I understand things are not going to go your way. Bad shooting starts can happen, but I'm talking about effort plays, being on the glass, being concise with your shot selection and your decision making. I always say it when we're on the road. It's called road mentality. I know it's cliche, but if you've never played before, if you were on good teams that played before, we're hyper focused to start road games. Wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, or whatever the term is. And that's what my high school coach used to say, but it's so true. And we just didn't have that, and it was a little bit disappointing. Just as a fan and somebody that's, obviously close to the program, that we didn't have guys that were, kind of ready to go. Watching the game, what were your initial thoughts at the start of the game?
They just looked very they didn't look like they were there.
Yeah.
Like they looked off. They didn't have any spark. They just felt flat. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah. No, I think flat was the perfect description for how they played and kind of the effort. We get in that first media timeout, it's the under 16. So basically 4.5, 5 minutes usually. And we're down, I think it was 9-2 or 8-2. And that's when I was kind of like, man, we're really going to do this, guys. You know what I mean? It's not like, and like I said, it wasn't that we just missed shots. It's like, you could just tell like our cuts were soft and lazy. We were lazy on box outs, and that's just in the first 5 minutes. You're like, come on, guys, like you're not good enough.
Yeah.
No team is good enough to flip a switch. Maybe the team that went to the championship game with Kispert and all them and Suggs, that was a team that could flip a switch, and they rarely did that though.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because they had kind of a want to as a group. Not saying this team doesn't, but it looks like it's kind of frayed sometimes, where there's not a consistent singular goal. And I don't know if that's, but I keep going back to that because I keep looking at some of the last month's games, and it's just like, lack of effort, and there's no, spark, and there's no, guys diving on the floor for each other and just being excited for each other. And I don't think it's a selfish thing. I just think it's nobody's like a vocal leader on this club. That's where I've thought about it for about a week, basically, or whatever, after this loss. And I'm like, so who's our vocal leader? And I'm like, well, Ryan could be one, but he's new. So that's fair. Half a season here. I said Graham could be one. Same thing. Half a season here. Nolan's just a quiet kid. Anton is just not his kind of his personality, and I don't think he has to be thrust into that role. Now the counter is like, oh, he's a senior. It's like, yeah, but he's been like a support player, a really good one, especially counting this last year, and then this year. I'll get into how good he was Saturday. But that's not just who he was like that in high school. He's just a quiet dude. And it's not a bad thing, but sometimes people's personality is who they are, and you don't have to was it square peg in a round hole or whatever?
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't
totally
want to force it, and he's kind of a lead by example guy. So I get into that, and I'm like, well, are they, is there not a common understanding in the locker room, like how, hard you have to play on the road, and how, physical you have to be, and how focused you have to be? Because it definitely wasn't there in the first half. To only be down 6 was a flat miracle. We were down 18 on the glass.
Yeah.
In the first half.
Yeah, that was a big stat.
Which is insane. Usually we're a team that prides themselves on, trying to win +10 on the glass and have a +10 margin. And we've been good this year, but that looked like an effort deal there in the first half. And like I said, I don't know how we were only down 6. I think it was a 40-34.
Yeah.
Yeah, 40-34. So it was kind of like you're like, this is a we gotta look at the positive. Like, all right, we're in this game. We shouldn't or could be completely out of this game. So we're lucky that we're doing a good job, and that was all spurred by Anton offensively. I mean, he had 32 on the night, but it's fantastic in the first half as well. 14 of 18 overall for the game, which is nuts. 9 rebounds. Did have 5 turnovers, but whatever. He's handling the ball more than he probably should be. You know what I mean? They threw it to him every time down. So sometimes I'm always like, usage rate matters for turnovers. 6 steals. I think he broke the record, or isn't he close? I think he got the second all-time last game or whatever.
I think he's close. I believe that's what Huddy said.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. But yeah, it's pretty cool that he's going to have that. But
yeah, totally.
You just keep looking like, man, he really plays good, on-ball defense and good steals and stuff. Made all of his free throws, but if it wasn't for him in the first half, we were literally down 20. I mean, nobody could score, couldn't shoot, just didn't have anything going. And like I said, it just looked lack of effort, man. And I hate to say that, but I'm getting to that point where there's certain losses like Purdue, great effort.
Really
Absolutely.
Good, yeah.
Great effort. UConn, just a better team. One of those. Yeah, they played harder, okay, but just a kind of a juggernaut.
Yeah.
UW, pretty good effort for about 35 minutes, mental layers down the stretch. You know what I'm saying? But I'm never going no effort. San Diego State, that's the one where I'm like, well, you kind of got pushed around. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm starting to get to where I'm hoping guys understand that you have to have a little bit more focus, man, coming into these games. And I hate to be just critical, but it just wasn't there, and it was frustrating to watch. Going into the second half, it was like, okay.
The Perimeter. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Hey, Greens. How's everything going today?
Hey, Robert. We're good. Just checking in on that car loan we applied for.
No worries. Let me pull that up. Yep. Looks like you're approved and all set.
Hey, that's great news.
So, you headed over to the dealership now?
Yep. Just gotta make one stop first.
And we got a great rate, too.
Going into the second half, it was like, okay, played bad. 1 for 12 from 3 in the first. It's like, oh God, here we go. Shot it okay in the first. 43%. It's not great, but it's not like, you're in the upper third. You know what I'm saying? Like you can survive on that 15 or 35. So you're like, okay, only down 6, and Santa Clara hasn't beat us in this 27 times in a row or 26 times in a row. So they're going to figure out a way to shit their pants. That's what you think.
It's what you think. Yeah,
that's what you think with all these. So a lot of these WCC teams, you're like, oh, they're going to figure out a way that to piss down their leg, and we're going to steal one and laugh, and then try to get better at it. So going into the second, it was like, okay, you get chewed out in the locker room, you chew each other out. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it should be. It's like, hey, guys, it should be a team-led thing, not fewy. Like, hey, man, what the hell is going on? Like, we're getting beat by 18 on the glass. Like, this is embarrassing. We need to get going. Come on. All those things, like, those are team-led things. And for the most part, to start that second half, we weren't good at all as well. Like, it was the energy was terrible to come out in the second half. So that's where I'm just starting to wonder, like, I know the staff prepares these guys. They have for 20 years. I've watched this guy. It's never a scheme thing. It really isn't. And that's not a homage to my former coach and whatever, and teammates that are coaches now. They know what the hell they're doing. It's not a question of being prepared and understanding having a plan for these teams and these opposite personnels. It is, to me, it's starting to look like, is the guys starting to understand that, the value of playing hard right away, getting each other going, holding each other accountable, playing for each other, right? That's another thing that people misunderstand sometimes. You think if you have a coach, you're playing for the coach of the university, you should be playing for each other. Screw the other stuff. Hold each other accountable, that type of thing. And it looked the same coming out of the second half, and I was just shaking my head. I'm like, what is going on? Like, just getting killed on the glass. They had a kid that had 5 offensive rebounds in the first half that literally plays like 5 minutes a game.
Oh, really?
Number 44, whatever his name is. Can you say that name? Ensminger?
Jake Ensminger?
Yeah. Like, literally doesn't play.
Yeah.
And had 5 offensive rebounds in the first half. Like, killed us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's a guy that, no offense to him, but he was on the scouting report, but he wasn't circled or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah. Well, he played 6 minutes and got 5 offensive rebounds.
I know.
That's
crazy. It was just pure effort.
Yeah, but for
and
sure.
he was just flying around. And the kid doesn't score or scores a bucket, but like he can, after they beat us, obviously, he can go and be like, I made a legitimate impact on that game by just effort.
Yeah.
Didn't do anything skill-wise. Got a put back, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just flew around. I got 6 minutes. I guarantee, like, that coaching staff's like, you know what? Maybe at the later in the season, if there's a game where we can put him in, we trust him. Or going into next year, like, yep, that kid's going to be probably in line to be legitimately in the rotation because he busted his tail. Those things win games, but same thing, like I said, going in the second half, just absolutely no energy, no fight. We get down 12 or 13. We do a really good job in the middle of that second half with Huff's crew. Braden comes in, and we start making a run. He actually had a really good game, in my opinion. We played 19 minutes, 6 of 10, 4 rebounds, 14 points, short action, 5 rebounds, excuse me. So played good. And then he had, how the rotations work. EK came in and he played the last about 5.5 minutes. So that from about, I think it was about 11 to 8, 7, we started making a run and we started getting back to looking like Zags, dribble handoffs to a layup, turn in the corner, putbacks. Obviously, Anton was killing. We were throwing it to him every time down. That's all we could do. And then I thought Ryan had a good spurt during that time. Ends up having 21 points, 9 and 19. Not terrible, not great, not bad.
Right.
9 and 19 is not terrible at all. But fought because he was bad in the first half. I think he was in the 3 for 9s or something like that. So I think he finished 6 for 10 in the second half. So he had a good second half. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
4 offensive rebounds, 5 assists, no turnovers. So he handled the ball and he handled the pressure. He made enough plays. 1 for 6 from 3. That's another bad 3-point shooting game, but 9 and 19 overall and gets to 21. If you have that the rest of the year, I'll live with it every single time. And the 5 assists, no turnovers. So I'm not going to hammer his effort, especially in the second half. Graham wasn't good. 5 points, 17 minutes, got in foul trouble, 2 of 6. Fouled out, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was in foul trouble at the end of this first half, right?
Yeah.
He had 3 fouls.
He had 3. He had a dumb one. It was just dumb. I don't think it was his fault, but it was also like one of those where you got to kind of know where you're at on the floor. He had one. There was the one where he was going for a loose ball on a rebound, and that's when we were like screaming. The guys were screaming at whoever's on the floor to rebounds. We're getting their ass kicked, and a kid gets it at like our 3-point line, going there, the opposite floor, and he like runs into him on his back. It's one of those where the official like beep and like looks at him like
yeah,
because he knows I just gave this guy's 3rd foul, but it's kind of like, dude, what are you doing? Like, get out of the way, like. So he was just off all night. He didn't look good, just out of rhythm. I thought they did a good job with their bigs. Santa Clara actually has a really nice built roster. Like, they have a bunch of bigs. The Balla kid is a fantastic, like, looks like could be an NBA type body. We tried to get him years ago. He ended up going to Arizona and then transferred, obviously. But he was sought after at Gonzaga, so he's good enough to play for us. He's good. He ended up making the game-winning bucket for them. You know what I mean? On just a pure ISO.
Yeah.
But they got that big from that Francisco Cafaro from where's it at? Virginia. Then their other 2 bigs inside, so they're like 6'11", 7 foot. You know what I mean? Like they don't. Yeah. They always have bigs that don't look like a WCC big, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like that type of roster. So they're difficult to play against, and they're one of the schools that I think benefits the most from transfer portal.
Yeah, I was going to say, you mentioned it last week.
Yeah,
and
they do.
And that's a great example of
Yeah,
it.
they, like most of their guys, they reload through the transfer portal. I mean, they've won 20-plus games, I think 3 last season. So, like, they went to the NIT. Like, they know what they're doing. Like, it's, obviously you want to make the NCAA tournament. They're, like, trending in the right direction, and they have a good roster. But they had Baczynski or whatever his name is, playing for the Warriors last year. He literally played like 2 minutes a game at Illinois, and then now he's playing 1 year, and then he's like playing heavy minutes for the Warriors. You know what I mean? But it's a perfect school to transfer to. Like, what if you're a 5th-year guy or a guy that's played in a bigger program, and you kind of want to not go down a level, but you just want to get to just playing hoops again? Hey, come to Santa Clara. Like, sure. Like,
right.
I don't know if you've ever walked that campus. It's probably one of the best in the West Coast Conference. Like, facilities, nice, good-looking girls. I'm just, that's a real thing.
Totally.
And obviously the weather is beautiful. You're like in the Bay, so you can get to San Francisco if you want, and obviously you can get to LA if you want to drive. You know what I mean? Like, you have every type of option. San Jose's clean. Nice city, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
it's
like
a great place.
They are going to like continue to do well in the transfer portal. Because if I was my last year playing college basketball, and you're not going to be like a superstar, but like sure, I want to have fun and like be on a team that like trying to win.
Yeah,
I'll go to Santa Clara all day.
Wins like this too will help that too.
Yeah,
like,
no, absolutely. So it was an interesting game. Okay, so sorry, I went on a tangent a little bit, but let's get back to, we make that run. Like I said, Huff was playing well. The normal sub is, get Graham back out there. Huff's playing his normal minutes, so it's not like he got 2 minutes and yanked. He played 19 minutes, so he got plenty of time. We get into that last media timeout. We have a couple plays here and there that we do make and then don't make, and the game gets super tight. We get a stop with, what are we, up one? Yeah, we
Up
get
one, yeah.
a stop up one with Nemhard going to the line. He's our best free throw shooter by percentage. I think he's in the upper 80s, 89 or something like that. About 25, no, probably 30 seconds left, and goes to the line and misses the first of the one-on-one. And it was one of those, and this is not to be too critical, but like right when it left his end, it was like, oh, that's not going in. You know what I mean? Like I tell right away, it was like, oh. So they get the rebound, come down, and they just put it in their best player's hands, Adama Ball, who had a pretty good game, 7 of 16, had 17 points, but he had a good end of the game and had like an ISO play with Nolan on the left-hand side, like left mid-wing area, and just did like a sweep and go or a hezzy and go and got Nolan in the air and got an and one on it. It was a foul. I remember watching it after because from my angle, it's like, oh, that looked like a cheap foul. But Nolan came underneath him when he landed. So it was the correct call. And one goes in. So you're like, okay, we're down 2 or we're down 1, but there's like 4 seconds left. And it kind of worked out best for Santa Clara. And I want to, just float this idea. Let's say you're up 1 and we took a timeout and we already have a play, an OB under full court play drawn up, Vandy, or whatever it's called. But you can only run it if they make it.
Yeah.
And so they're only going to get a 3 off, so it's kind of like the field goal in football. Like if you're only up 1 and go up 2, it doesn't matter. So you might as well go for the 2-point conversion to go up 3.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like, so you see teams do that now. Like in the old days, take the extra point, but now it's like, no, it doesn't matter. It's a worthless point. And so Ball misses the free throw, and we obviously get the rebound, but we got to go the length of the court with no play that you can really run with like 3.5 seconds. So right when he missed, it was like, oh, that sucks. No, we can't run anything. And then, Anton comes down and tries to make a pass. We didn't have a chance. And they win the game, storm the court and all that stuff. But I was sitting there like, I doubt it, but I wonder if I'm a coach, like, do I tell my kid to miss that, knowing they don't have any timeouts?
Right.
Has to be
no timeouts.
It has to be no timeouts. If they do have timeouts, make it go up 2. Obviously, they could throw the length, and if they make a 2-pointer, you only go into overtime. You don't lose the game. So it was interesting when he hit that or missed that long free throw. I was like, oh, that actually worked out better for them. And then, like I said, they stormed the court first time, and I think it was 26 games.
26. Yeah, I think that's the number that
26 games that we haven't beat, or they haven't beat Gonzaga, Santa Clara. So I think it was 2012 or something like that was the actual year date, which is crazy, a decade. And with all the good teams they've had, Keating, the head coach before them, had good teams, had good scoring teams, and obviously, what's the guy's name? I'm trying to think of his name. It's just completely lost it. What's his name?
The Santa Clara coach?
Yeah.
Oh, like the current
Syndic, Herb Syndic.
Herb
yeah,
Syndic.
I don't know why I don't know why I blanked on that one. He has, obviously good teams with the NIT last year, so it's just crazy that they haven't dumbed into a win before that.
Right.
There's a bunch of crazy streaks we have with a lot of these clubs. But it was wild, because we got to, we're sitting right on the courts, people storming and going crazy, and you're just like, oh, don't run into us, but you're also just like, cool, man, it's cool,
Totally.
Kids are having fun, and
what was the atmosphere like? Because that was one thing you were talking about on the radio, is that I feel like every time we kind of got back into the game, they made a 3.
I know,
and then just got right back in it. It's just like, and that crowd like really did like. like if you could, I mean, even on TV, you could hear it, you could feel it.
Well, they did a good job. It was Steve Nash night or whatever.
Oh, that's right. It was
what
Steve Nash night.
Steve Nash night, which was cool. They gave out like pretty nice like throwback jerseys.
Yeah.
So everybody was wearing the 11s, old Bronco jerseys, and they wore the old ones.
Yeah.
Which were cool. And so the crowd was hyped. He did a good job getting the crowd up. I think they said it was his first time being in the building in like 20 years.
That's crazy.
It's crazy that he never had a chance to go back or didn't want to or just didn't have time, didn't care or whatever.
Yeah.
So the crowd was good. And then, the way we started, and then you're exactly right. Like every time we'd make a push, they made a big time play or we wouldn't make a play that you're supposed to make. To continue the momentum, like a fast break that didn't happen, or a pass that should have happened, or late closeout on a 3, or a missed ball screen coverage. Like there was a ton of those where you're just like, man, there goes the momentum again. Like we're still in it, but like, dang, man, we got to make those plays, then we can overtake this, and then make them be like, oh, here we go again. We were going to lose to Gonzaga once again. That's what happens to a lot of these teams. So.
It definitely felt like that the last 30 seconds. Like we had the lead, we went to line, and like you were like, oh, we're gonna sneak, we're gonna sneak out of there here with the win.
We're gonna steal this one, and then we can, you get a day off or whatever, and then or a unit off, whatever it's called, a segment off in the schedule, and it just didn't happen. Again, we're gonna go broken record here, but look at our 3-point,
2 and 20,
2 for 20, man.
Yeah, that's
just when I thought we were turning the corner, we shot over 40% in the last 2 games of the first 2 home openers. Mm-hmm. So I did on the last episode. I was like, well, maybe it's starting to come. And the guys are getting their reps in, and they can shoot, and they're blah blah blah. They're high level players, all that stuff. And
I mean, that's
just bit us in the ass.
It's crazy. Like that is the game though, because that's 18 empty possessions.
I know,
and.
It's crazy.
They'll only lose by a point. It's just...
It's crazy. I mean, we shot it, both teams 10 for 14 from the free throw line, so there was no discrepancy on who got a better whistle. They go 9 for 28. It's only 32%, but they get 27 points off threes. Only shoot at 44%. But plus 13 on the glass for Santa Clara. That's a huge... I don't think we've lost double digits to a West Coast Conference team in probably 5 years. And maybe it's happened in a game where sometimes it goes weird when you shoot like 60% and the other team blows you out on the rebound. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like plus 13 for Santa Clara on the glass is a crazy stat.
That is, yeah.
So I just, again, I got to go back to focus, all the some of the little stuff, man. Because I could talk about the 3-point shooting, but
we've talked a lot about that this year.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about it, and again, it's a make or miss deal. But
I was gonna ask, like, is there? I mean, I love making excuses for anything, but like sickness going around, I don't know, like,
I don't know.
Because
I don't think so.
Ben Gregg getting in there for 26 minutes and.
Yeah, you got to talk about it. He has 22, his career high the game before.
Yeah.
And then 0 fors. And then we got to be fair, Dusty Stromer 0 for 2 in 18 minutes, 0 points. 1 rebound. I know the play that he didn't play the last probably 13 minutes or whatever. He overhelped on a drive by the Cafaro kid, who's not a scoring big. He's kind of just a big dude. And he was driving from 12 feet in, and he overhelped, and they corner kicked it for a wide open 3 and made it. And he called timeout, and he literally stared at him for 5 seconds, and then just subbed him out and didn't play in the rest of the game. But that's focus and stuff.
But that's what you've been talking about all year. Is that the weak side help? Like,
yeah, like it's on a team like Santa Clara that shoots a ton of threes.
Yeah.
And they shot it, I think, 38% going in. So they were statistically one of the better ones in the WCC and one of the better ones statistically on volume in the country, right? If you're shooting in the upper 30s and shooting a ton of them, you're good. And they look at effective field goal percentage. So for them, they go, all right, we only shot 32%, but we get 3 points for a make, obviously. So we get 27 points on 28 field goal attempts,
Gotcha.
effective field goal percentage. So like a lot of people are like, that's actually pretty good. 1 point a shot. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like the mindset has changed over the last 5-10 years, especially analytically, especially at the higher levels. If you shoot a ton of threes, you can go 10 for 30 and be like, dude, we got a point every time we shot it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
yeah.
So it's different. And that's how some teams view it. So yeah, I just got to go back to, I don't know if there's mishaps in the locker room as far as leadership. I know, like I said, I know they're prepared. I know they're coached right. I know they're schemed right. I think some of it's got to be, you got to have a little bit more edge. You can't come out flat. You're not good enough to come out flat, and that's just the truth. No team really ever is, but some teams are more talented than others. Like last year, we had some flat moments, but we also had this guy who broke the scoring record and another guy that's playing minutes for the defending world champions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we had those two guys, and then
Totally.
Malachi Smith was pretty good. Obviously, Rasheer Bolton was pretty good.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You just go down the line. It's like, well, okay. So I don't know, man. That was a frustrating one.
We're over halfway through the season. Like, can a leader emerge during this? Like, is that like?
It's a good question.
Like,
I mean, I think so, but maybe it's just guys need to be more vocal. That, like I mentioned earlier, that are candidates. But also, like, as an individual, like if you go out and play harder, like people will follow as well. So that part was just keeps bothering me. It's just like didn't play hard at the start, and then the start of the second half, and then minus 13 on the glass, and then I think all that stuff filters over to shooting too. And I know it sounds funny, but like if you play hard and put yourself in the right spot, I believe in basketball karma. Like the ball will go in for you eventually. You know what I'm saying? Because you're doing the right things. You're getting all your reps in the practice during the week and all that stuff. Like if you play hard and sprint and cut hard and play defense and try to get offensive rebounds, like things will start to go your way. Ball will bounce in. It's basketball karma. So I don't know, man. I was really disappointed. Wasn't disappointed when we lost to Purdue. Wasn't disappointed when we lost to UConn. I mean, obviously we want them to win, but like as far as like effort and then matchups, like, well, okay. San Diego State, a little bit disappointed. Got pushed around.
Yeah.
Santa Clara, really disappointed. Got pushed around and didn't make enough plays down the stretch. Even if we came and made those free throws, I'd come and say the same thing.
Yeah.
Be like, our effort was terrible. We're lucky to get a win. That would be the only difference. It's like we were lucky to get a win, and it's a scary proposition going forward if this is how we're going to play.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully it'll get better. We got the weird schedule. We're going to play San Diego and Pepperdine again, so we get them out of the way. This is going to be turned out to be a big road trip. As funny as it sounds, I know we beat both teams pretty handily, but we're 0 for 2 on the road.
Yeah.
And then we lost on a neutral in Seattle. It's technically a home game, but right?
Yeah. No,
So it's turned out that it's going to be a bigger game than we expect. So Pepperdine first, I think on Thursday. We've always the last few years too. We've won by double figures down there, but like Huddy always points it out, he's really good when he dives into the numbers. He's like, we'll be up like 6 with like 6 minutes to go. Every time we play down there, it's weird. It's not a crazy crowd. It's mostly a Gonzaga crowd. It's a weird gym. They always just play us good in their home gym, obviously, and then we end up, we won by 14. Good job. And you're just like, man, this was kind of a game with 6 minutes to go. You know what I mean? So we better not mess around and have a lackadaisical attitude. So hopefully that message is getting consumed by the players, because I know it's been addressed.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, man. It's crazy.
It's very crazy.
It's interesting.
One of the notes I put down here that we have to talk about, and I just read it this morning because it came across my phone, is Bracket Watch with Joel Lenardi and the Perimeter. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Hey,
Hey, it's Olive. I just got my first ICCU debit card. Now I just need some money in my account. If only there was someone who could transfer in some allowance.
Wow.
Bracket watch with Joel Lenardi, and
we bubble team.
We're the first team out.
Wow.
It's and the last team in is Boise State, and I was just like,
We haven't. When have we seen that?
I don't. The last time I could think it was like 2016, probably when we weren't ranked. It was when we. Yeah. But I think we had enough. I think our non-conference record that year was good enough to get us into the tournament on without winning the WCC.
Yeah, that is a curious position to be in. Obviously, it's going to be something we discuss throughout the year and from week to week. When obviously how we see wins or losses, but. If you're being completely honest right now, and Lenardi's usually pretty spot on, which is crazy. Like he's usually one or two teams out, out of 68. Like he's one or two on the good side, or you know what I mean. Like that's crazy. We're probably gonna have to win the deal if you just started it today.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
We would. Yeah.
So
I was gonna say maybe our one saving grace is that St. Mary's is 31 in the net ranking. San Francisco's 43. We get to play them
twice
four
each,
times. So like those are resume builders. Like
but
yeah, I mean obviously as we get closer to the end of the season, like it's really gonna flesh itself out. But it's one of these years that's just like, as a Gonzaga fan, we don't have them often at all. Like because like our streak is what, 26 years.
26 years.
So
yeah, it's like it's. Obviously we got a lot of games left to play, and we've had teams in the past. I went and watched. Obviously, my daughter plays for Meade, and so I watched NC Meade boys afterwards. And Abdullah, I always just call him Kuso, who played at Gonzaga. We were talking after the game, and he's, what's going on? I was like, yeah, it was a tough one, blah blah blah. And he's like, I remember the year after I left, he was on that team with. I think it was the year. Heidfeld got suspended, but they still had a good club. But he's like, we fell out of the rankings, and we had like a team talk in the locker room. One of these after practice, like, we're not going to be this effing team, like, and it ain't going to happen to us. And they figured it out and won the West Coast Conference tournament, and made the NCAA tournament. You know what I mean? But they're like, and he's like, they need to figure that out.
Totally.
And obviously he's was a good player and. Now coaching, but he understands to be in that position. Like, you need to figure this out, man. So I'm really curious to see how the rest of the season goes, how the effort and the mindset goes. That's what I'm going to be watching from here on out. Obviously, keep track of the 3-point shooting and rebounding. The rebounding thing will get fixed, but that was just a tail whipping, man. Minus 13 is crazy. But yeah, the bubble team, I didn't even notice. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Well, yeah, I mean, not to be ranked in the AP, and I mean, it's understandable. So you can't really.
Yeah, first time since 2016. It was 142 weeks.
Yeah.
Is what I think I saw. The difference with that team, that was the 2016. That was the year Shimmick got hurt.
Yeah.
We had Domus and Wiltshire.
Yeah.
Were our two inside guys, and I think Eric McClellan was one of our point guards. Trying to think of that crew, but those two guys are still playing professional basketball.
Yeah, that was more injury. I feel like
it was just injuries, and then they had some weird, weird losses. But then they figured it out. But they had two guys, like Domus is a perennial all-star, and Wiltshire's playing like EuroLeague still, and like the second best league in the world, and like playing heavy minutes. So it's like it's a little bit different crew. And that's no offense, but that's just the truth. That's a different crew than we have in there now. I'm not saying any of our guys can't turn into pros, but those are like two, like, I think, you've heard me say this a million times. I think Domus is the best big ever here. If you just go down on like total resume.
Totally.
You know what I mean? And that's a lot of really good bigs, but I'm like Domus. I've always said that. I'm like, Domus is my favorite player. So it's going to be interesting, man. I haven't given up on this team. I know other people haven't. But when there's lack of effort and focus, I will always say it. on this podcast all the time. I'll say it on the air too every time. Because if you bring effort and focus and a little piss and vinegar, like things will go your way. And if sometimes you lose a game where you're battling your tail off, I always come in and we're like, yeah, that was a tough loss. We really played hard. This one was like, wow, that was embarrassing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like effort was not there. Start of each half. First half, second half, terrible. Glass, terrible. Decision making, terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, you just go down the line. It's like bad. It's like if it wasn't for Anton going 14 of 18 and then Ryan having a good second half, we would have lost by 10.
Yeah.
10 plus. And it'd been easy. So that's what I'm going to be really looking for, especially on this first, this road trip coming up with San Diego and Pepperdine. Obviously, we just played them, but we're not in a look ahead mode.
No, we're not. I mean, I was going to say, like,
close.
Like last time we had this conversation, we lost to San Diego State, and we were on our way to play Pepperdine and
San
Diego, and I was like, well, these are get right games, and like, well, these are get right games, but like, even if we do win, like, we still have to think about everything else still. Like
100%.
it's not like get right because they can come back and lay another egg.
Yeah. So I agree. It's going to be an interesting back half of this season here. And do they have the talent and the want? I know they have the talent.
I was going to ask, like, is it like this team isn't because of lack of talent that they're losing, right?
I don't think so. I think the shooting part you can attribute it to, I guess, shooting talent. I mean, that'd be fair assessment. Not saying the guys can't shoot, but you got to, if they're not making them, then I kind of have to be like, well, you can't shoot. You know what I'm saying?
So
like,
true,
it's kind of hard. You get put in a weird spot because you don't want to like call a guy like he can't shoot, but we're getting to a point where like, man, this guy's just got to start making threes. Graham Ike was the Mountain West Player of the Year. Okay, a year and a half ago. So obviously he can play on a team that went to the NCAA tournament. Ryan Nemhard averaged 12.5, 13 on a very good Creighton team last year. Anton was fantastic last year's, having a breakout season this year. I think he's a true NBA guy. Has a chance to play in the NBA. Dusty Stromer was a 4-star recruit. Big-time recruit. Nolan was a big-time recruit that was supposed to go to Kentucky, then switched last second. So, obviously, he was getting recruited by, and Braden Huff was Illinois Player of the Year. I think Ben Gregg was that Oregon Player of the Year.
Oregon Player, yeah.
So, like, it's not like we're having, like, diamond in the rough guys that didn't turn into a diamond, right? So, these are good enough players. So, I don't think it's a talent thing, honestly. I think it's a focus thing. I think it's maybe an internal leadership thing. Like I said, the coaching staff, they prepare, and guys are going to have to kind of figure it out. So that's what I'm looking for from here on out is effort, camaraderie, togetherness, all those cliche things that everybody kind of rolls their eyes at until it doesn't go your way and they show up. It's time now to like put those things together.
Yeah.
So it'll be it's fun. It's a nervous feeling now because I don't want to be have those kids have that feeling if the NIT word comes into effect or bubble team or whatever. So it's like it's kind of a hey man, like some of you guys are not familiar with I guess the Gonzaga brand or like the pride that people have with this, but like. Be a scarlet letter, man, if you don't make it to the NCAA tournament. I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock, but we're just going with the complete reality of this town and how people feel about the program and how much success other guys have had and all those things ahead of them. So plenty of games left.
Plenty.
But like I said, it's got to be from the locker room. It's got to it's got to be the guys in the locker room. It can't be just, hey, you guys need to play better, play hard. It's like, it's got to be somebody's got to stand up and like, this is bullshit, man. Like getting beat by 18 in the first half on the glass. And then like, hey, man, let's get in the gym together or like, hey, man, let's just play with confidence and let this thing rip. And if we start making some threes, let's say everybody on the bench start going fucking crazy, slapping the floor. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you got to get yourself going, diving on the floor, all that stuff. So we'll see. Looking forward to these week's games. But it's a weird schedule again. I don't know what the WCC's thinking. I'll just play those right away. But yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for helping me out, Brennan, on this one. Thank you to our sponsors, McGilvery Environmental, Idaho Central Credit Union, and HDG Architecture. We'll be back recapping the games and talking about what's coming down the pike and where we sit with the bracketology or whatever it's called, the Lenardi's deal, and hopefully we'll move into the first 4 in or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
seriously.
No, seriously. Yeah,
it's like, and then string some wins together, and then there's a little bit less of a, anxiety. But you made a good point about the net rankings for San Francisco and St. Mary's. There are some good opportunities to get some, net building wins on the. It's not completely doom and gloom in that regard. And it's not just wait till February for the WCC tournament. Like, okay, we could still get it to maybe we get into the, mid 40s, high 30s on the net. And if you're in that, you're usually pretty safe. So
totally.
So all right, appreciate it.